Well, hey, and welcome to another episode of Beetle Dustino, coming at you again today with yet another video, and yet another video in a series I've had going, and it seems like I've ignored for a little while, as there's been a lot of stuff going on, just other little things I wanted to kind of share, so this got put on the back burner, and there's another thing that got put on the back burner, which I was planning to do today, but hopefully next week. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. Those album reviews take a lot on me, so I'll maybe explain a little more in that video when I get to that. But anyways, we're going to continue my series. A viewer of mine asked me to kind of rank all the album art of all the Beatles stuff and all the solo Beatles stuff, all their album covers, and kind of do everything on that. I think they were meaning just to kind of do each individual one, but I'm going to combine all this to make one super ranking at the end. The number one from each category is going to go up head to head with the number one from all the other ones. So I've kind of been breaking down the Beatles in a little bit, and we'll see some more of that after the intro. So of course, I've been breaking the Beatles down a little bit, and I was going to explain a little at the beginning there, and I thought, no, that's better to explain after the intro. So we'll get a little more into the video here and kind of explain what we're doing here. So the first one that we did, I think we did the UK, the standard 60s, while they were together, studio albums and such that was there. Any album, because I did include the compilation in there, the oldies but goodies I did include in there. And then I did the 70s kind of era compilations post-breakup up until the CD era is what this one's going to be. And now we're into the compilations and live albums from the, as I call it, the CD era, but really it's the CD and streaming era. So post 1988 about on up, as the first one of them came out in 88, not 87 with the rest of the CDs. That was just the standard studio albums. Passmasters, which would be the first compilation in this, did not. But let's see kind of how this goes. And I did include the streaming. I decided I'm going to include the streaming because it is part of their discography now. And I think there is some decent album art in some of it. And I thought, one of them alone ranked a lot higher than I thought. And I kind of had that figuring that maybe these handful of compilations that were done in the streaming era and strictly streaming might do all right. And I was right on the one. So let's see how that turns out. And if that was a physical media release, I think it might get a little higher. But let's see how this all turns out here. So we'll start. We got 12 of them. And the first one is going to be one of the streaming ones. And yes, this is really a bad one. I'm going to have the picture up there. But it's Tomorrow Never Knows, the compilation that came out exclusive to iTunes. Looks like it originally released on July 24th of 2012. I guess we're past that now. We're in August now, aren't we? So I gotta, the time flies here. But yeah, that's when that one originally came out. And this did technically have a physical media version of it. It was a pretty rare European promo pressing that they did on an LP. I kind of like what they were kind of going for here with this. Making it look like, just a pretty simple little LP sleeve with the LP in it and, file under rock and stuff like that. I kind of get what they were going for, but it just doesn't work. And even if I did have that physical media version of it, I think this would be a pretty weak album art on that. I get it. I think there's some coolness level to it, but I wish they would have done more, especially streaming. You would think you would at least get a really cool image, even for that thumbnail on the streaming, But yeah, that's going to go at number 12 on that. So basically, figuring out we got 12. I combined a lot of these into one, and you'll see as that goes here too. So the next one up, again, is another streaming one, and it's going to be number 11, the Beatles Bootleg Recordings 1963. Again, another iTunes exclusive. I don't know if these are available on other ones. I know at the time they were iTunes only. And there's loads of bootlegs of this available, like a physical version, but there's never been even a promo version of this released. And the Tomorrow Never Knows, I think, had a CD version too, but that was even simpler artwork. I just remembered that on that. But yeah, this originally came out. Oh, I didn't get my date on there. Well, words in the corner will help me out there. They'll put the date there when that originally came out. I know it was kind of towards the end of 2013, so they kind of were able to slip in this before it went to public domain. I remember there was a lot of theory on that. That's why it was streaming only. And it's a lot of kind of Please Please Me with the Beatles outtakes on the first part of it. And then the majority of it, I kind of jokingly always call it as Live at the BBC Volume 3. Yeah, I just, it's actually got an image of the guys on it, which is cool, but it's so faded into the background. And the fact there's no physical thing on it anyway. If it was, there was an actual physical version of this, and this is the artwork that they decided to go with, maybe it would get a little higher, but I don't know. However, number 10 does have physical releases of, and it's pretty uninspired, and there's a reason why it's ranked as low as it is. So let's get into that one. So number 10 is going to be the Passmasters, and of course when it first came out, we got it as this version. We had Passmasters Volume 1, and then Passmasters Volume 2, so you kind of had the two. I always got to remember you guys are seeing it this way. Kind of the black and the white, and then the white and the black, kind of the reverse on that. And then in 2009, when they remastered the catalog, they decided to make it all as one, and it's just Passmasters now, and they went with the black and the white instead of the white and the black. However, the white and the black does come back in the form of, and I'm counting this in as part of it, mono masters. So there we go on that. And of course, Volume 1 and 2 originally came out, and when the vinyl version of that too, I got to remember on this, the vinyl version of this was combined. It was 1 and 2 combined, but it was called Passmasters Volume 1 and 2, and it was combined. I believe the front cover, and I'm holding it backwards again, aren't I? Front cover looked like that, back cover looked like that, if I'm not mistaken, maybe, or something like that.
That is correct.
But yeah, these originally came out on March 7th of 1988. And then, of course, this version, and now that I got the LP of it, I do have the CD of it too, but this version came out on September 9th of 2009, 9/9 of 09. This version I know was released much later, just singly on its own as vinyl only in 2014, about when the big box, the in mono box set originally came out. Or 2015. Yeah, it was 2014. What am I saying? I should know that. We just had the reissue, which this is out of, come out there. So, but yeah, that's going to go number 10. I couldn't find much on who did the artwork on it. I don't think anybody really wants to take credit for this, as it is so uninspired. I mean, it's kind of cool, the Drop T logo and everything. I remember this was the first Beatles CD I ever bought, and to me this was just so cool at the time, but that was because it was kind of my real intro to Beatles CDs and Beatles albums. I don't know, I kind of fell in love with the artwork at that time, but now looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty terrible. And I think possibly Passmasters might rank the lowest if those other ones had actual physical media versions. It might not beat Out Tomorrow Never Knows. That might be the dead bottom on that. But anyways, coming up at number nine. I'm sorry, I got to do it every time. We're going to have, and this was a tricky one here because we're getting into a lot of just graphic stuff on this. But I went with Love, the Circus Ole soundtrack remix album here, which originally came out November 20th, 2006. The package design was done up by Drew Lornier. I'm hoping I'm getting the right names right here, in a Janina something or another, and a Philippe Mignor or something. I suppose they did this for Circus Ole. I've seen a lot of French names there, so I'm assuming they kind of designed this, and that's just kind of, you know, they did the album cover and everything based on this. And I am kind of accounting in for the gatefolds and inner sleeves and stuff like that, booklets, any sort of artwork that's in this packages. That's not gonna, it's gonna be a very small fraction of what's gonna put these up. But I don't know, I think there's something about some of the other ones that this kind of goes down a little lower, even though I really love this image, I really do. But that is going to be where that one goes at number 9, and at number 8, not at number 1, even though it is 1. And I'm going to show several versions of it because it does vary a little, but it will be Beatles I, which originally came out on November 13th of 2000. That's this version here. And then we got the remastered version sometime in September of 2011. I can't find the exact date when the remaster came out. And let's see. No, that is the remix version. But yeah, there is that artwork. And we had so many versions of the artwork here. Because there's been kind of 3 variations of this, we have the remixed version. And I got the LP on that one, which came out on November 6th of 2015. And we got variations on the artwork with this too, which we got the DVDs and Blu-rays ones, and kind of reversed with the yellow and the red instead of the red and the yellow. And also, I forgot to grab it down earlier, and now I'm having to reach for it, but I'll get it here, which I've always thought was kind of cool, is the 1 Plus. I'm going to kind of count this in there because it's still kind of that same kind of artwork, with the red with this really cool blue, and then even taking out of the booklet there, and you got the blue and the red kind of reversed there with just the Beatles logo. But I'll count this kind of, because you do got the CD in there too, don't you? You got the album also aside from the video. So technically that's the album too. But yeah, this came out, kind of the cover art and everything on this was done by a Rick Ward with a design team called The Team. And they come up on quite a few of these coming up here. So that little group there. So they must have been kind of the in-house Apple Beatles stuff going there for a while. But yeah, one's coming in at number 8. And I got to give it a little defense here why this did beat out Love. It is because of stuff like this. Well, yeah, stuff like this you're getting in the gatefold, and then the postcards and the big beautiful poster in that. So this one did get helped out a lot by that stuff, because I know how cool this package is. It looks so plain just looking at this, but when you do open it up, it really kind of opens up. You know, there's a lot more going on there than it appears to be. And I just kind of want to point out too, kind of the variations you can see here. The first one, the original one, you can see in the one, it's a little more see-through, and the one just kind of fills in more. With the remaster, it's a little less see-through on that, and then the remix, it's even more yellow going there and not so much red behind the yellow. So there is kind of a way you can look at that, and so that's why I'm showing all these variations, because there is quite a bit of a evolution to it, you'd almost say, to that simplicity. But I think that simplicity is part of what sold it. I was a marketing major in college. I do work for the marketing department of the place I work at, but it's not really that type of marketing. However, I probably could slip into that aspect of it. But yeah, one thing that they taught us, I remember, that always stands out to me really well is the reason why McDonald's always made it so well, probably why this album sold so well. Red means stop and pay attention to me, and yellow is caution, to start slowing down and pay attention to me. So that combo of colors has a lot of psychological things going on, using the McDonald's colors to sell this album, why this compilation album done so well. And this is, the intro to a lot of people's Beatles experience, and, a pretty beloved album with them also. And I think a lot of it does have to do with that coloring. They really went different with this one. And this one just reversed it, but it's still kind of that hey, caution, slow down, and then stop, and pick me up. That's where we're going to go with one. And let me get this all put away, and we'll get on to number 7 there. Okay, so number 7 is going to be another kind of remix album, which would be Let It Be Naked. Just kind of a variation, and the track listing too is quite different. I tend to like stuff that's actually got the guys on it, and this is a pretty classic album cover with Let It Be. Just kind of like the negative version of it, I suppose, of the original photos by Ethan Russell. This originally released on November 17th of 2003. The design of this, of course, it is Ethan Russell did the photography there, but the design was by a company called, I think, a really interesting name on this, Wherefore Art, with a good question mark there. But yeah, Let It Be Naked is going to go there. This one I think is getting a little higher because it's one of the first of these that actually has got a picture of the guys, but it's such a blurred and goofy image of the guys, and it just, I don't know, it doesn't sit with me quite as well. And if you're paying attention, I said the streaming with not a physical media release wasn't going to rank real high because we don't got that physical thing to hold and touch and look at. But one of them I said did have a pretty good image that I think if they released it, and why they don't, I don't understand. So many people want this. They want an LP version of it. They want even a CD version of it, and why they don't put it out, I don't understand. And they've got a great album cover for it just based on the thumbnail from the streaming stuff. But we are getting to another streaming one, and I do kind of got a physical version of it. Robert P. did send me this kind of bootleg version of it, one that he made himself, which I love on that. That's great. And so I do at least got some form of a way to kind of hold it and look at it and everything, but I'm going to put the image up there now, a little better image there. And that is going to be my number 6, which would be the Get Back the Rooftop performance, which originally released streaming there on November 28th of 2022. Loads of bootlegs of this one too. There's so many different vinyl variations. I suppose Robert P's here. This one's pretty limited to, just friends of Robert P are probably getting this version of the CD there. But the LP has got, I have seen so many people show it from loads of other Beatles channels out there in the Beatles community on YouTube here. I know Beatle Brad, I think, showed quite a few because he loves his colored vinyl, and there's so many colored vinyl versions of it. But they've done just loads of colored vinyl versions of it, but they are complete bootlegs. And I think that's where Apple's really missing out on this, Universal Music, so forth and so on. They need to get that out there because people are buying these bootlegs. So, of course, they would buy the actual thing, too. I think a lot of us would rather have that actual thing because, it's going to be good sound quality, a lot better than a bootleg in that. So, who knows? Maybe one day they'll release it, but it's going to be my number 6 though, because I think this image is really, really nice. I think that's cool. Really conveys what they're trying to sell on what the album is about. It's them on the rooftop and that cool image of them all from the back there, looking over the city there from the rooftop. That just awesome. It's really cool, and I think it would really lend well to an actual physical release. But I'm really shocked it went this high, about mid-pack. Didn't crack the top 5 though. So however, cracking the top 5 is an album that I think is one of the only graphic ones that really did well, but it is really done well. It really is. But it's Yellow Submarine Songtrack at number 5 here. Originally released on November 13th, 2009. Of course, this is the re-release version that came out in 2011 or so, I think, on that. And they didn't do anything to, of course, this is a remix album too, in a way. But they didn't do anything to remaster or do any other remixes or anything. It's just a straight copy of the 99 mastering on it, just redone in the new packaging, which I'm kind of shocked they didn't do with the Anthology or with Beatles Love or Let It Be Naked. The fact they did this one like that, why they didn't do the other ones. However, there is versions of the Anthology, and I've really been researching this and hoping to get a copy of it in France and Italy of the Anthology, and France, Italy, Spain, I think, and maybe Spain, I don't know, and Portugal of Love in the newer digi-sleeve type package here. But yeah, Yellow Submarine is going to go there. I couldn't find much on who did the artwork on this, the Songtrack, I suppose. But it looks like the booklet design, which I think is a lot of this imagery like this, was done by Fiona Andrianelli. I think I said her name right. I hope I said their name right. But that is what I found on that. I was trying to find all the design creativeness of all of it. That was the best I could find there. So coming up at number 4, and I thought this one was going to do a little better, but because I really do like this image, but it didn't do quite as well as I thought it would, which is Beatles Live at the Hollywood Bowl, which came out. Of course, the Hollywood Bowl one did rank pretty high in my 70s era stuff, up to the early 80s, the post-breakup kind of era there. That one did pretty well. I think they did about the same, about 3 or 4. I can't remember what that other one was at. But this is just another version of it, but now with a new cover on it. But we had to count that as a new cover, and with a couple bonus tracks on it. So, but yeah, I love this image of the guys. However, what is detracting from it is all of this. I usually don't like that. I wish that the image of the guys was bigger. I wish that they took all of this out, which I understand that they had to kind of emphasize that this was what it was kind of about, was promoting the 8 Days a Week documentary that was out, the touring years, the Ron Howard film. There we go. We'll get it all in there. But I wish that this was out of there, just the Live at the Hollywood Bowl, push the Beatles in the font there up a little higher, and have the image of them bigger, coming up more up here, below the Beatles thing. I think that would have been a much cooler image on that. Had it been done that way instead of this on there, I think this would have been ranked a lot higher, because I absolutely love this image of them. I think that is so cool, them all with the shades on, kind of the lighter jackets. We usually see them only in darker jackets, so that was kind of cool getting to see them in this lighter jacket and everything. You know, the blue behind it, but they kind of also blend in with that blue. But there's just 3 things that do a little better than this, and let's get on to those. Oh, before we do though, the cover art, the cover photo, I think is credited to Bob Bonas. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And the design was by Darren Evans for the art design on it. So number 3, I really wish that I had a vinyl version of this, but as it is one of my absolute favorite Beatles compilation live albums things, I think this would usually rank my number 1. And I'm going to show you the original version here first, which would be Live at the BBC. It has kind of went through a couple of artwork changes on it, but the original one kind of had this, is that sepia or whatever, kind of blending on it there. And then when it got remastered a little later, it came out with the more just black and white version here, which I absolutely love. I love this image of the guys, and I know it's doctored a little. I think George is actually supposed to be a little further back, and they brought him forward. That doesn't bug me. I always hate when people point that out. Well, you know, that image is doctored. Well, yeah, it's doctored, but it looks cool, doesn't it? I don't care if it's a little doctored. It's a great image of them. And yeah, I've always loved this image, but I've loved the album so much, so I'm almost wondering if that aspect of it isn't part of what's pulling it up so high there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of it. Again, this was Richard Ward and the team were kind of some of the design artwork on it. And the remastered version with the black and white is credited to Darren Evans. I suppose him just maybe deciding to go with that black and white version there. And that'll move us on to number 2. And I think a lot of people are going to be shocked on this, because this album doesn't get quite as much love. But I think this image is a little better. It's kind of on the same vein, but I didn't think it was close enough like these other ones, like Passmasters and One and everything, how all those like kind of blended together. And I think as you're figuring out, the number 1 is going to be, and it's several albums, of course. But yeah, On Air Live at the BBC Volume 2, which came out on November 11th, 2013. I suppose that's when the remaster of the Live at the BBC came out, also was November 11th, 2013. But yeah, the art design on this one was a Melanie Fordyce and a Stuart Crouch. And I absolutely love this image a little better. It's so similar, yes, but I love the color version a little better. We'll hold the 2 there together. And I've got these out of my little box set. I wish they would have done a little more with this box set to make it a little better than just kind of how they did that. But I love having the box set, but I wish they would have done just a different artwork on the outside of the box or something a little different to kind of make it stand out a little more. But yeah, I think this is just a stronger image. We do got them a little closer. I think that's part of it there. I think the color just makes it really pop. Not that the black and white doesn't look great, or even this version. I really don't know which way I'd go on this. This is so just iconic to me, what I really fell in love with. This was a great little update, and I think this is just a little better image of it. Kind of along the same theory there, them just walking down the street in front of the buildings there, and yeah, but I think it's just great artwork. So moving on to number 1, finally getting there. And I think we've all got it figured out, well, what's really left of compilations and stuff from this era, and it is the granddaddy of them. And you'll know why it is the number 1, but it's Anthology 1, which originally came out on November 21st, 1995. And Anthology 2, which originally came out on March 18th, 1996. And Anthology 3, which originally came out on October 28th of 1996. And I am going to be kind of generous, and there is one more streaming album that is out there, and it is Anthology related. It is the Anthology Highlights. I'm going to count that in with this because it is basically this image from the back, just without the track and all that other info on it, and just kind of the Anthology Highlights font on it. But it's on the theme of what's going on here. And that came out on June 14th of 2011. It really didn't help or detract or anything to it, but I'm kind of counting that in because you might say, hey, there's one more streaming album out there. But what is brilliant about this, and I'm hoping I can display it right, and I'm sure we all know, but when you put the three together, as I'm sitting really funny, that's how it's going to work. You get this huge, massive collage, which is just so cool. And I'm hoping to find these. I've got them somewhere in my house, and I'm hoping to find them before the anniversary here coming up, the 30th anniversary in November of everything coming out. I do have the mini long boxes that these came out with in the US. I think they came out in actual long boxes too, but there was a mini long box. And for all my long boxes I collected over the years, or albums that I bought in a long box, those are the only ones that somehow survived the mix there, I'm hoping. And I've got another little anthology thing, not really related with that, but a little store ad thing that I was able to score. Of course, on this, the collage was done up by Klaus Voormann, a good friend of the Beatles there from all the way back in the Hamburg days. Of course, we all know that. And of course, musician that's performed with several of them in their solo careers and such. And then the design art direction was done by that Richard Ward again and the team. So good job on that, guys. This has always been an absolute highlight of a album cover for me. And this was part of what really, Live at the BBC really kicked me off right when I was getting into the Beatles, was the one that was out. And then this, coming out about a year later, just really solidified me with that. And I think that's just awesome. How that all turned out on that. But there we go. That is my Beatles album art cover rankings there. I think we've covered all the albums now, from the compilations in the 70s, the compilations in the late 80s and up, to present, and the original albums. Oh, I totally forgot to mention the US albums from the 60s. Those I had in there too. Well, during the 60s and the very early 70s. I had all those in there too. I did a ranking on that. So we'll take the number ones from each of them, compile it up, and we're going to have a rank going on that. But now I got to do the solo careers, and I don't know how I'm going to start on this. And I've really been working out how I'm going to do this to break it down without making the videos too long, or having just one massive ranking. I'm going to break down, just like I did with the Beatles, each of their kind of careers on that. John's and George's, I don't think I'm going to have to break down as much, but Paul's and Ringo's, there is a lot out there. So I'm going to have to break those down a little. And I think I'm going to do them kind of by decades on it, is how it's going to work out. I know I wrote down a little breakdown on how I'm kind of planning it. So you'll see more on that when I decide to do the next one on this. I might just do John and George right away to get them out of the way, because they're going to be a little easier to kind of go through. And then go from there with Paul and Ringo. But anyways, that's where we stand with this one, and I'm going to get signing out. Before that, though, I do want to thank all my subscribers, and thanks to any new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and do hit the notification bell so you know when I got new videos coming out. Also, please give the video a like if you like it, and like I always say, if you stuck around to this point, you must like it, so please give it a like, and do leave a comment. I love having a discussion with everybody. Let me know your thoughts on my ranking here. Is this how you would have put everything? I wouldn't expect it's how you would put it, because this is my ranking, but I'm curious to see how you would kind of put these albums in there, these album covers. And, let me know your thoughts on some of the other stuff. And just any thoughts you got, any comment, and that it helps the video out. So even if you just say, hey, Beatles, that's great too. That'll help it out. So anyways, I'm going to get fully signed out before I get rambling. I'm Beatles, signing out.